let's make a start. I'm delighted to have Ed here. Ed, say hello to everybody.
Hello everybody.
And Ed, you run All FM.
Yes.
Now, All FM is a community radio. We have a show on there every Tuesday, drive time. It's 5 until 7, and we used to be on there on the Thursday, which was great when we could make it because we didn't think anybody listened. Unfortunately, now people actually listen in the drive time. And it's actually proving quite popular. So it's wonderful to have Ed here just to tell us some stuff about how he got into radio and what All FM actually is. So firstly, you're actually from Liverpool, albeit you work in Manchester.
Yeah.
And All FM is based in Leamington.
Yeah.
Can you tell us your full name?
It's Edward Christopher Connole.
Great. And what did you study at university? And how did you come to be running a radio station?
I ask myself that on a regular basis. I went to Liverpool Hope University. I'm from London originally, and I went to Liverpool Hope University and I studied a degree in theatre studies and psychology, which opened a lot of doors. It didn't really, but and I did an MA at Liverpool John Moores University in screenwriting.
Right.
None of which prepared me to work in radio.
No. And certainly not community radio.
No.
And so, well, why Manchester? Because there's a rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester for starters.
Yeah.
Is that the case? This is where the job was?
Yeah. I mean, it's strange. I came up to Liverpool in 1999, and I worked there till in 2006. And the whole time I was in Liverpool working, I think I did more work with Canada than I did with Manchester. So I hardly ever came over to Manchester. And so I really didn't know much about Manchester until I came to All FM. I've come to love Manchester. I'm not just saying that, I think there's a lot of similarities between Liverpool and Manchester. I think, in terms of the general outlook of the people, in terms of, say, artistic and musical output, I think Liverpool and Manchester are very similar in two most prolific cities in terms of musical output historically and presently. So I think Liverpool and Manchester are very similar in many, many ways. And I think a lot of the rivalry is down to football, I think. And also, let's face it, neighbours there's always a rivalry. But I think there's a lot. Liverpool and Manchester share more in common than they do in terms of what makes them different. Again, I think the people politically and ideologically and their outlook and stuff is very, very similar.
And so that must have attracted you.
Yeah.
So just before we go back to the radio, you tell us what degree you did. Screenwriting doesn't seem to be a natural follow, but preparation to the radio.
No.
What did you do before the job with All FM?
So I'll take you back a few years back. What I did after university, I went to drama school, and then I left drama school, and I had this great idea of never being an unemployed actor ever again. And the idea simply was I formed my own theatre company. And in our very first production, I very modestly gave myself the lead role of Macbeth. And in the middle of rehearsals, the whole time the phone's ringing and I'm trying to sort out the costume and the bookings and trying to convince the bank not to end our overdraft and stuff. And I remember we were doing it, and I realised midway, a few shows into it, I was doing all these things that bad actors do. I was looking moodily into the outwards and gesticulating and saying tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And I realised I actually had no idea what I was actually talking about, because I spent the whole time trying to actually sort out the actual production and the tour and stuff, that I'd given very little attention to the actual rehearsal and character and learning of lines, etc., etc. So after that, I then directed and then I produced, and I never actually acted ever again. And so my master plan was foiled fairly early on. So I ran a theatre company for 3 years, and we used to have we'd have a a home in London and in Crewe. What we do is during the
Crewe?
Yeah.
Not the first place that comes to mind when one thinks about a theatre.
No, but the reason was because we used to tour in London, tour in the south and tour in the north, and Crewe had access to Manchester, Liverpool, and all the various conurbations. So during the school term we'd play to schools. At Christmas we do panto, and then in the summer we do open air tours at parks and garden squares and historical sites and stuff. And so I ran that for about 3 years, and it was just, well, I say it was enjoyable. We made quite a lot of money, but very little profit. And basically I developed a Pavlov response to the phone. Every time the phone would ring, you know, I was expecting something bad to happen, basically. So you get a call at like 7:30 in the morning, like, you know, the actor's saying we're stuck on the motorway. And I'd say, well, what do you want me to do about this exactly? But what I learned was, you know, you get through, you know, things go wrong, but things always go wrong.
Yeah.
And for the most part, you know, it was a enjoyable experience. I learned a lot. And then a job came up in Liverpool, running a theatre in Liverpool, the Valley Theatre. And after 3 years, I took that and moved to Liverpool, and I've been there ever since.
Right. So we're now fast forward because as I said, you live in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about All FM? Because
Yeah.
I don't know how many people in the audience have listened to All FM. Well, you will now. You're more than we think. And I know there's a couple of people who've been interviewed on that. It's 96.9 FM,
Yeah.
as you don't know, digital, manual, whatever. But how does it work? Because there's a myriad of people who present shows on there, and it's a community radio. So what is community radio? And it's in fact a charity.
Yeah.
So you have no funding at all. I know I asked for a great tea once, didn't I? And then there wasn't any.
That was a near breaking point, that was like.
But just tell us a bit about how community radio works, how your station works, how it's funded, and really what the benefits are to the community.
Okay, firstly, Manchester is like the leading city in terms of community radio. When I first came to Manchester, Greater Manchester and Manchester, I was shocked by the number of community radio stations there are. Nearly every demographic is served, geographically, youth-wise, ethnicity, etc., etc., etc. And so, but each community radio station has its own identity and does its own thing. So some are more proactive than others in terms of engaging people in the community and stuff. So I can only really talk for All FM. So All FM, we have approximately 120 active volunteers. And the majority do radio shows, and we broadcast 7 days a week from about 7 AM until 1 AM. And the volunteers are all legacy, essentially, of training projects. So what we do, we train people in radio. They go live on air, and then they have the opportunity in which to host their own shows. And again, before I came to radio, you know, I had very little experience. I had no experience with radio before I started at All FM. So, and I think the perception is it's just a group of radio enthusiasts, you know, broadcasting shows. But what it does, basically, what radio training does, right? It's like anything. Like the thought of actually doing radio training sounds really, really difficult. You know, to broadcast, produce, and present your own show. You come away and you've learned these skills often without knowing it. And we worked with every type of group of people there are, whether older people, children, people with mental health issues, special needs, you know, you name it. And we've never, in the whole time I've been there, had a time, because all radio training ends with going live on air, and people are terrified. You know, it's absolutely terrified. But you know, I always say, you know, what the worst that's going to happen is you're going to press the wrong button, and you're going to, you know, it's going to be 2 seconds.
Or you can invite children on and say this when we come back on air, and then they say, I can't remember what I'm supposed to say, and then you've got to fill that void. But there is that fear, isn't there, that actually millions of people are listening, when actually it is you and, you know, on our show. It's just, you know, us and a guest interviewer. It's very cozy, you know, lots of laughing in between playing music and interviewing. But actually, lots of people are listening. So it's comforting that you say, oh well, what's the least, what's the worst?
But if you listen to any radio station, they make mistakes all the time, and the key is you own your mistake. You know, it's no big deal, is it? Somebody presses the wrong button, the wrong interview comes on, or you know, the wrong track comes on or whatever, you know, no one's going to die, are they? Do you know what I mean? So it is a case of you own your mistake, and when you listen to someone make a mistake on the radio, you're not phoning in complaining, are you? In a way, it makes them more human, more personable, and it's like life, isn't it? We all make mistakes in life, and we just, you know, we move on, like, you know. And the thing about radio is, you know, it's live, you know, it's real, and it is a thing about, you are in a sense having a conversation with one person. You know, Terry Wogan always used to say his listener, dear listener, because in a sense you're talking to one person, although that's potentially multiplied by millions. The idea is you're talking to a listener, aren't you? Yeah. It's pure. You know, it's kind of almost like sort of pure form of communication, live radio. There's no edits, there's no filter, and again, it's this thing in it. It's got often we have people like on All FM, you know, whose voices are the least heard, and all of a sudden you have 1 hour, you know, of airtime, and it's your canvas, it's a blank canvas, and it's up to you how you fill it.
Well then, tell us now, it's a difficult question, about the times when it's really gone wrong. Have people, for instance, sworn on live radio? Ofcom, it's hot, I mean we always say to people that we invite on, Ofcom's always listening. Yeah. And we're often petrified as well. Oh crikey, we're running out of time. When the phone is usually you saying it's a great show, but actually you think, oh, is that somebody who's going to complain? So I just wondered if you can share, are there times the radio goes wrong and the stations get fined and quite a lot?
I think the key thing is this, right? I mean, often, yeah, people have sworn on air, and then, but you're taught the protocol. If you swear on air, you apologise. If you play an inappropriate track, again, you apologise. As a radio station, you have to be seen, you know, to be upholding standards. You know, if somebody does something wrong, it's not really a case of actually, you know, punishing someone to do something wrong. It's a case of actually helping them so it doesn't go wrong again. Mistakes happen all the time, and people swear accidentally and stuff. And it's, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, is it?
No.
But I think the key thing is that you try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And Ofcom, you know, they're not there to shut you down, you know, if one thing goes wrong. But I think if you repeatedly, you know, transgress rules and stuff, then it becomes an issue. But, you know, I mean, things that have gone wrong with All FM, you know, what happened? I mean, our antenna got hit by lightning, you know. Yeah, I know, I mean, it was God sending us a message, I think. Yeah. And so...
bad music,
it was, enough is enough. Yeah. And so, you know, the whole thing, we were wiped out for 2 weeks, like, because it basically shorted the whole station. But, you know, you get by, didn't you? You get new kit, you know, and, you know, and life, isn't it? It's how you deal with things that go wrong, isn't it? But, you know, I mean, nothing, you know, things go wrong all the time, like, you know, but it's how you deal with it. But, you know, I don't think we've had any huge emergencies.
Good. So we can keep going. So I've got 3 questions I need to ask you, not all in one go, but so you can think about it. We always ask every guest on this show what community means to them, also what you would do with £1 million. And then lastly, or one of the questions I'd like to know, 2 other questions. 1, who inspires you, and 2, I know you've got a son, you live in Liverpool, 2 sons, and you're running this station, which is, you know, community, struggling for funding, serving different parts of the community. I would call it quite a socialist station. I mean, there's no one just on there presenting, you know, dedications to Theresa May, for example. And really, how you do it. It's a question that, you know, men are not asked very often, how you do it. So really, what does community mean to you? We're a community network. Brexit said we were a divided community, and because we're not connected anymore. What does it mean to you?
Community, okay. Well, communities working together. I just think it's quite simple, isn't it? It's everyone working towards the same ideal or same goal, which is generally, you know, people's happiness or, you know, living a relatively happy life. I mean, it's always easier to divide, isn't it? I mean, you know, and you think at the moment we have fairly opportunist politicians who kind of want to expose divisions rather than what unites us. And I think something like a radio station or community radio station is quite a good example, really, because we have like foreign language shows about, you know, LGBT, you know, shows for various communities or various ethnic groups, religious groups, etc., etc., etc. And it's providing a platform and a voice for everyone, and no one's more equal than anyone else. And I guess what community essentially is, or should be, is everyone, you know, having equality, you know, equality of opportunity, equality, you know, quality of life. Basically, I think that's what essentially community means to me.
And what would you do with £1 million on a philanthropic basis?
Okay.
The community.
On a philanthropic basis.
Yeah, you know, all right, you might go on holiday or whatever, but you know, for South Manchester, for Evanston, whatever. But it's got to be community based.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was thinking about this, as you do. I would probably look, I'm not sure in what, you'd want to divide it out, wouldn't you, among various groups, people, etc. I mean, I don't think there's one thing that £1 million will solve, but £1 million spread over, you know, between X number of people, X number of communities, X number of charities or whatever, you know, a small amount-ish of money can go a long way, like, you know, so I would probably look somewhere along
this line.
Yeah, I think so, I think so.
And so who inspires you, and how do you juggle, if that's the right word, with having a family life and work?
Well, who inspires me? That's a good question.
I know, I thought of it.
You're an inspiration. Who inspires me? I don't know, really. My mum inspired me, like, you know, my mum, she was a saint. I mean, literally, you know, she gave everything and didn't expect anything in return, like. And, you know, she brought 4 boys, and again, you know, all equal and love, and, you know, put us, all our needs in front of ours and stuff, you know. So when I think, for example, about being a parent, like, you know, I think my role model was my mum, because I think, you know, anything good that became of me, I would put down to her. Yeah, you know, and, you know, she came from a completely different background. She came over from Ireland. You know, her experience of growing up, her experience of arriving, of work, you know, it was, and bear in mind, you know, in the sort of 60s and 70s, you know, there was a lot of anti-Irish feeling, you know, Irish jokes and all that malarkey, and I think she looked sort of to protect us from all that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, she was probably my inspiration, I think. Yeah, and so I like to think I've kind of filtered through to, you know, me being a parent, like, you know, I try to teach my children good values. Yeah. You know, the importance of saying no, I think, has come up quite often, like. But I think, you know, what you can do for your kids, isn't it, is you can just try to give them a good sort of, I don't know, moral outlook, a good framework or whatever, and try and teach them what's good and what's not good, and, you know, teach them good values, I think, and then after a while they'll make their own judgments and stuff. And so in terms of juggling, you know, work and family life, I don't have any plan. You know, I probably spend too much time at work. But, you know, again, I think it's being there, physically being there and emotionally being there is the key thing, like, you know. I mean, you know, often it's just, I don't know, making sure your son does his homework, and, you know, they're not stuck in front of their phone for 26 hours a day, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I mean, I don't think there's any big secret. It's just doing the nice things well, basically. Brilliant.
I think. Ed, thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause there?